This episode is proudly sponsored by The Helix, a new innovation district located in New Brunswick, New Jersey, the heart of the Northeast Corridor. The Helix provides a critical ecosystem for innovation by offering a range of physical environments, a vibrant community of leading innovators, and a strategic central location on the Northeast Corridor. The Helix will uniquely mix workspaces, classrooms, laboratories, venues, and collaborative environments, creating a dynamic community and setting for innovative minds. Universities, startups, Fortune 500 companies, entrepreneurs, researchers, and many others will all call the Helix home. Thus far, the Helix has assembled a community of innovative private and public organizations, such as Rutgers Health, the New Jersey Innovation Hub, RWJ Barnabas Health, Hackensack Meridian Health, universities from Ireland and Israel, and others. The Helix is where ideas will come to life. To learn more, visit helixnj.com.
Your NFL Sundays are about to get a whole lot more magical. When you bundle NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get the most live NFL games all in one place. And with Multiview, you can watch up to 4 games at once, so you can catch all the action right from the comfort of home. Watch every game every Sunday on NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV. Sign up now at youtube.com/Sunday Ticket. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
From NJ.com and the Star Ledger, welcome to the Rutgers Rant, your one-stop podcast for the Scarlet Knights, with your hosts Steve Politi and Rutgers insiders Brian Fonseca and Pat Lenny. Let's start shopping.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Rutgers Rant. Brian Fonseca here, as always, with my partner on the beat, Pat Lanny. Steve Politi, our columnist, is still en route back from Paris, probably in the friendly skies right now, or catching a 14-hour snooze. So we'll hold the fort down without him, but he'll be back soon. In the meantime, Pat, we were at Rutgers football's first scrimmage of training camp this weekend, a long one. Have you recovered? And 2, do you have any major thoughts coming out of it?
Yeah, I think the really encouraging news was that there's a positive takeaway from quarterback, and I think that's the biggest thing everyone wants to focus on this training camp is how good can Ethan Kaliakmanis be? And in this scrimmage, he was very proficient, showed that accuracy that needs to improve from last year. And I thought, a couple of receivers really stepped up. So I think the passing game looked a little better than it has in previous seasons. And a lot of this scrimmage, while the starters did get some run, a lot of this was about depth as well. So a lot of it was sorting out guys behind the starters and things like that. But yeah, the big takeaway for me was that I thought it was a good day for Kaliakmanis and the offense looked pretty good.
My big takeaway was that it looked pretty much what I expected. Like, nothing really surprised me either way. No one was much better than I thought. No one was any worse than I thought. I agree with Greg Schiano where he said Kaliakmanis kind of did what he had to do. And I think he did what he had to do this season, right? Manage the game. Greg Schiano said he missed a couple of deep balls, but he connected on a lot of other balls. I think that's exactly what Rutgers needs out of him. And again, exactly to your point, depth is the big question on this team because they return a ton of starting caliber guys who we know are good and can take a step forward. The question is kind of filling in behind those guys if this is football, injuries happen, and if guys have to step up, are they going to be able to? I think one position we're getting a really good look at there is linebacker. Greg Schiano mentioned Tyrone Powell, obviously recovering from a long-term injury. Mo Toure, a little dinged up. Shouldn't be anything major, but he's been out of practice, missed the scrimmage yesterday. And because of that allowed a couple of young linebackers to kind of fill in. I guess just what do you think about the depth at linebacker, especially now that they're getting some run they maybe otherwise wouldn't have gotten?
Yeah, I feel like Moses Walker has been a popular guy on this beat and for fans. When is Moses Walker going to crack the field? He was a highly touted recruit out of Erasmus Hall. He just really looks the part of a middle linebacker, can really run. I think he's looked great. And then next to him is a guy named Dariel Jabomi, a very interesting story. If you know his background, came to a Rutgers recruiting camp. Todd Hunt wrote this incredible story a couple of years ago. Basically slept in his car and maxed out his credit cards to use it. It was fantastic. Anyway, bottom line is these two guys, along with Abram Wright, sophomore, and junior Timmy Heinspeeder, former guy out of Don Bosco, have all gotten some nice reps here while those two guys are out. And they've looked the part. So I think that's encouraging. Obviously, you would love to have Powell and Toure back as soon as possible. The timeline of that is still a little bit murky. There's really no update on Mo Toure's, even what Mo Toure's injury is. So I think that's not great. But the good news is the way the schedule breaks, everyone knows it's Howard, Akron, then a bye before Virginia Tech. Obviously, we'll see how everything shakes out, but that is something to keep in the back of your mind.
Absolutely. And I think linebacker, again, we've mentioned this a few times. A couple years ago was one of the weaker positions on the team, and now they really are a position of strength, both veteran guys starting and some encouraging, young guys slotting in as depth. Other positions, Greg Schiano, we asked him about when he kind of touched on offensive line. I think is kind of the biggest question here. Entered it with, 6 guys returning with starting experience. The left side of the line, we felt pretty certain was solid entering training camp with left tackle Holland Pierce, left guard Brian Felter, center Gus Salinskis. Right side of the line was kind of the question mark. Greg Schiano said yesterday that they're pretty set on who those 5 guys are. He didn't say who they are, but I think if you kind of connect some dots and you kind of look at it, it's really not that much of a mystery here. I think the big question with offensive line, again, is just depth. Do they have the depth behind them that one of these guys goes down? Can they fill in and do well? I think you put a lot of stock in Pat Flaherty to be able to develop these guys in the back, but that's really the big question with the offensive line.
100%, and it really is. Even like Schiano said, it was just about finding the next guys on the line, right? The 5 guys should be pretty set at this point. It's finding the next guys, and like we saw last year, they weren't afraid to rotate people, plug in new people, experiment. So even though we maybe do have the 5 at this point, it just doesn't necessarily mean that that's a lock. I think that's something to bring up as well.
Absolutely. You remember Brian Felter last year was a guy who we didn't even think about in training camp, and then he finished the year as the starter at left guard. Kobe Asamoah was the starter at right guard. He ended up playing back up to Curtis Dunlap a lot last year. So yes, by no means are things 100% a lock, but I think you'd like to have these guys kind of really stay ahead of the curve and be, the best of the group. Wide receiver. A lot of guys in that room. A couple guys stuck out yesterday. Doesn't sound like there is complete separation though among everyone yet.
It's really interesting because the guys at the top are the experienced guys. Like they're certainly going to play. Dymere Miller, Nassim Brantley. Those are 2 transfers that are certainly at the top. Christian Dremel led the team in receiving a season ago. He's a senior. He'll obviously be out there a lot in the slot. But it's a position where, you play 5, 6, 7 guys. So after those guys, you got Chris Long and Fama Toure out there a lot. Some intriguing freshmen like Ben Black and KJ Duff potentially in the mix. Just a lot of names. And yesterday we got to see, I didn't even mention Ian Strong, the guy that probably had one of the better scrimmages yesterday. So I would say Ian Strong and Dymere Miller had great days yesterday with Cal Manis. So I think those are the two guys that I don't want to say separated themselves, but if we had to pick starters, I would say those guys certainly probably have an edge up.
I think Ian Strong is an interesting guy. Broke into the scene as a true freshman last year, had that great game against Northwestern, and then kind of, for lack of a better phrase, tread water the rest of the year and didn't really manage to build on that. And I think as a sophomore, having that experience, bulking up obviously in the weight room, and having competition to kind of get the juices flowing, I think is a recipe that might allow him to kind of build on his freshman year and live up to some of the expectations people have. So I think Rutgers has a good problem here. A lot of names to plug into the wide receiver room. Again, much like offensive line, where they were trying to find their best 5 a few years ago, and now they have some depth. At wide receiver, there was maybe 2 guys last year that you can depend on. Now you have some reliable depth that you hope somebody. I think Dymere Miller probably is the favorite to emerge as the guy. I think it might be a little bit of a disappointment if he wasn't the guy, given some of the preseason hype and some of the production he had last year. But behind him and guys like Christian Dremel who have proven themselves, there's a lot of guys who can emerge as that other option in the depth. Any other position groups or any other takeaways from what Schiano said or what we saw in the scrimmage that you want to share before looking ahead to scrimmage number 2?
I think those are the big ones. I took a look at special teams a little bit, and I thought Jacob Anderson, the new punter, he's a freshman that Rutgers is really hoping follows the Corsac model. He's an Australian punter. I thought he did some good things. He had some good kicks. He had some not so great kicks, but let's say he's not Corsac-esque yet, but I think he'll be very solid. Jay Patel, the kicker, looked very solid. And the return game is a big question. And I don't know how much, they really worked through kick returns and things like that. But it does seem like Christian Dremel will be a guy back there as the punt returner again. So just a couple quick special teams updates there.
We'll get a little bit more next week at the second and last scrimmage of training camp. I'm looking, again, much of the same. I'm looking forward to seeing much of the same as far as how does Cali McManus look again in another game setting. Greg Schiano talked about how to, the adjustments of the in-helmet communication and the tablets on the sideline and how that can kind of be a lot to deal with. So will he be able, even be even more efficient, having gotten used to that next week? Offensive line, how is it looking? Is it still set? Wide receiver, is anyone pulling up? Anything you're particularly looking forward to next week?
It'll be interesting to see if those injuries clear up. Obviously, it won't be for Powell, but is Motere back? And if not, what that linebacker room looks like. Obviously, we just went through it. Cornerbacks are another interesting one. The starters, I think, are real set with Robert Longerbeam and Eric Rogers, but I think there's some flexibility there with Al-Shadi Salam and Bo Masco. So I think that's an interesting one. And then safety has 3 veteran guys that are certainly going to play 90% of the snaps, and Desmond Igbinosun, Shaquan Loyal, and Flip Dixon. But, freshman Kaj Sanders was one of the big names in this recruiting class coming in, and I think there's a good shot he may get some reps. So that's something to keep an eye on too.
For sure.
Experience the Heldridge Hotel, a luxury hotel that's perfect for both the business and leisure traveler. Ideally located within minutes of Rutgers University, the Heldridge is convenient to all the action and activities at SHI Stadium, Jersey Mike's Arena, and the Rutgers University campus. The moment you walk through the doors of the Heldridge Hotel and Conference Center, you know you're someplace different. A place with an independent spirit and a boutique vibe. A place where you can immerse yourself in your meeting or event as easily as you can the local culture. Located in the heart of the city, the Heldridge lets you experience all that New Brunswick has to offer. Whether you're coming to New Brunswick for a fun weekend with friends, in town for a Scarlet Knights game, or attending a business meeting, book your accommodations today at theheldridge.com.
I don't think we have anything else with football here, but moving on to hoops really quick. They ended their summer workout program last week, 8 weeks of it. And look, there's not any major takeaways to get out, but I just think I have a few thoughts I wanted to share. One, I think they hope that their injury luck kind of gets better from here. You lose 2 guys for most of the summer, and Dylan Harper with his knee and Tyson Akoff with his foot. And you hope that you stay healthy for most of the season, because that's the most important thing. Obviously, you hope that young guys like Jamichael Davis and Jordan Durkak, who filled in for Tyson Akoff and Dylan Harper for a lot of the practice, took advantage of those reps and took steps forward. Jamichael Davis got a lot of good publicity out of the practices from people in the team, people at practices. So hopefully he will take the next step forward. And I think that's really, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey got to show everyone who watched them play, get them a taste of what could be coming in the winter. But other than that, I don't really have any big picture takeaways. Is there anything on hoops, thoughts on the team in general and entering the break here that you want to share?
I thought from the practice I was at, I think we may have talked about this, but if not, I will bring it up again, that I watched Ace Bailey shoot free throws for 90% of the practice. I don't think he missed one. I saw him throw down monster dunks, and I was just beyond impressed with him. I think the hype is really cool and really justified. I think he's got this nice aurora around him where people want to be around him. He's a fun guy. Like it just seemed like there was a lot of fun to be had at that practice, and not in a bad way. But just there was a good energy, and I felt that, and that's what you want to see from a team in a hoops team in July at the time. So I thought that was good.
No doubt. The non-conference schedule dropped in the time between our last recording. We're really playing catch up here from the last time we spoke. Some interesting thoughts from a lot of different corners, from the national media, from those inside. I guess, do you have any takeaways from the non-conference schedule, any games you're looking forward to, or anything?
I just loved a lot of the commentary on social media and people going after each other. I thought it was very interesting, but I thought this is exactly what you want if you're Rutgers. This is, to me, is the perfect schedule. And I get it. They're not out there playing a rugged blue blood filled schedule, but this is such an improvement from last year, or the last couple of years even. And you're playing great teams. You got to mix it up. You still have Princeton, you still have Seton Hall. I think that's important. So I think Heichel and staff deserve a good pat on the back for this. I think it's much better, and I think it's the appropriate schedule for this team.
I think the ramp up is good. You play 5 tomato cans and then you go to Vegas, so you get to kind of get the feel of the place, get the feel of the team, see how they do in a home environment against, you hope, an easy team to defeat. And then obviously you play two juggernauts in Notre Dame in Las Vegas. I agree mostly. The only gripe I have is I wish there was one more high major team. I know Arkansas was supposed to be the opponent in the Princeton game, and obviously that fell through when Musselman left the program. That would, to me, would have been completed the schedule. But I think, the tomato cans you're playing aren't as bad as they usually are. These are mid 200 teams on Ken Palm and not 300 teams on Ken Palm, which is always good. And I think all this discussion will be moot if they go out and win these games the way they should, steal a game against one of the two really good teams in Vegas, beat Notre Dame, beat Princeton and Seton Hall, and come out of the non-conference schedule feeling good. So I think the complaints are a bit overblown. I would have liked to see one more high major team, but it is what it is. Scheduling isn't an exact science, and it's not easy. Jay Young is back at Rutgers. I think a great move for Rutgers. One, because that's a veteran voice in the room that knows Steve Pikiell, that Steve Pikiell trusts dearly, who will listen, who can give strong, thoughtful feedback that will be respected in the room. I think the more veteran voices you get in the room, always the better. And he comes with expertise at a very important position. He's a great coach at the center position. He showed that development with Miles Johnson, who he took as an unknown recruit and made him one of the better shot blockers in the Big Ten. I think you hope that he's able to participate in practice and help guys out. He's not going out and recruiting, but he's able to give instruction. You hope that in a short time he can make leaps and bounds with Emmanuel Ogbole and help Lathan Somerville have a good freshman year and have the building blocks to live up to the expectations for him down the road in his career. I think for those two guys, this was a great hire. And again, for the coaching staff to have a veteran voice there who's been around the block, who knows the program well, is always valuable. So I thought it was a great hire.
There's no question about it. And to me, what just stands out is that Heichel's all about connections and community and guys that have been there with him. You got to go back to the well, and a guy like Jay Young, has been there for this whole ride. He's seen the success. He's taken things from the bottom and brought it to the top. That's what's important, right? Like surrounding yourself with people who understand the big picture. I think this guy is the perfect example of that.
On the other side of the APC, another sport hired assistant coach to fill a spot. Mikey Labriola, you broke that news, is expected to be the assistant coach for Rutgers Wrestling, pending a background check. Mikey well. You're familiar with Mikey. Tell us a little bit about Mikey, what you know and what you expect for him at Rutgers.
Yeah, Mikey Labriola wrestled at Bethlehem Catholic when that school was taking off on the national scene. And obviously it's a powerhouse area for wrestling and high school recruiting and things like that. He went to Nebraska, was a 5-time All-American with the extra year, the free year and the honorary All-American status. So similar to Sebastian Rivera, but reached the NCAA finals in his senior year, and had a very great career. Then he just was looking for an opportunity. He was back at Bethlehem Catholic this past year helping out, and then this will be his first college job. So what's interesting is that the Rutgers staff, it was a major adjustment because you lose a guy like Donnie Pritzlaff, who is the associate head coach and really like the right-hand guy of the program. And obviously the way that this is going to shake out, there'll be 3 assistants. No one's going to be an associate head coach. There'll just be 3 assistants, and Goodell will obviously still be at the top. There may be more coming on this coaching search. So we'll keep our ear to the ground on that. Little teaser there. But yeah, I'm sure we'll hit on Sebastian Rivera soon and his accomplishments in Paris. So just an exciting time for Rutgers Wrestling and Mikey Labriola, by all accounts. The guys that have covered him for many years, like Brad Wilson at our sister site, Lehigh Valley Live, just speak so highly of him as a person and a character. He's obviously got a tremendous experience, a great background, and just is everything you kind of really want in an up-and-coming assistant coach. So I think Rutgers should be excited about the hire.
Well, bouncing off that, you mentioned Sebastian Rivera this morning gets the bronze medal in Paris. Tell us about what that means, how big of a deal it is, and just kind of what you saw out of Sebastian Rivera in Paris.
he's just been a guy ever since high school that kind of just defied expectations, and now at the pinnacle of the sport, came through in the biggest moment. Very exciting, dramatic match in the bronze medal match, and it's just huge. This is what it's all about, producing at the highest level, and we'll see where this takes him. I mean, he's previously said he wants to be in coaching, and I think there may be an opportunity for him here down the line. I don't know exactly if it's going to be at Rutgers or with Donnie Pritzloff at Columbia, but either way, I think there will be some coaching in Sebastian Rivera's future. We'll just see how it unfolds. But in Paris, just an incredible performance in the bronze medal match, and a shout out to the guy in his corner, Jeff Buxton, a key challenge, ultimately kind of won this match for Rivera, and it was just fascinating. So our guy Politi, who was over there, wrote an incredible story about just what it meant for Rivera to be the flag bearer for Puerto Rico, right, and how special that was. So awesome experience for him, and great things to come for sure.
Sebastian Rivera, one of a couple of Rutgers athletes to medal in Paris. Casey Murphy, backup goalkeeper for the women's national team, did not play, but she did get a gold medal after they won the final against Brazil. Kalia Copper with the women's basketball team. I believe they're playing as we record. I'm going to assume they win because they always do. So congratulations to Kalia Copper on the gold medal. Am I forgetting any Rutgers athletes that were competed in Paris?
And Rudy Winkler was 6th in the hammer throw, which was actually a great performance for him. In a really tough field, but he had a great throw and a good performance. So Rutgers, Rudy Winkler from track and field.
6th in the world, not bad. Not a medal, but not bad at all.
Not bad.
All right, well, that's all we got. Thank you for listening to the latest episode of the Rutgers Rant. We'll be back next week to recap the second scrimmage and last scrimmage of Rutgers training camp this fall. And we'll be back to obviously preview the season later on. Steve Politi will be back to join us at some point once he wakes up from his week-long siesta after covering the Olympics. And we'll see you guys soon. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Rutgers Rant. To participate in the conversation and receive live updates about the Scarlet Knights directly to your phone, sign up at NJ.com/insider.